All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2014 kickoff of Cover 3. I am so glad to see you guys. Hi, I've missed you. I am Mandy, and I am back for another season of fun and football conversation. And tonight, and hopefully for the next several weeks, I am welcoming one of my very favorite football people of all time. We have a great time together. I've asked her to come and kind of hang out with us for a little while and see how she feels, if she's comfy. So let's all please welcome Claire. Hi, Claire. How you doing tonight?
Fantastic, Mandy. I'm so touched that you would have me on, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to just come and hang out and talk with you about football.
I am so glad to have you, though, because we have a lot in common. As far as football goes, and where one of us falls, like I'm not so strong in college football, you pick up my slack, and so it's going to be a pleasure. I cannot wait to see over the next couple of weeks what happens, and I'm really glad to have you. Why don't we get started with something that we were actually just talking about before we went live, and that is the ridiculousness of the fans, because I have to tell you that I have seen, and certainly, this has nothing to do with football, but in the recent NBA finals, just watching all of the ridiculousness that goes on from NBA fans, hatred towards one particular player, or total blinding devotion to another player, is completely stupid and completely ridiculous. And of course, we know that happens in football as well. Tell me a little bit about some of the ridiculousness that you have witnessed from, just if it's Texans fan base, from any fan base. I would say Seattle fan base can be a little bit annoying, but tell me some of the ridiculousness that you've witnessed.
Well, I think it's so, okay, I could go so many directions with this question, because the most recent, the most glaring one in my mind is probably LA fans, LA Lakers fans, who decide that Dwight Howard still means something to them. And they courted him, they spent thousands of dollars, millions of dollars trying to get him back. And he just said, no, I don't want to be there anymore. I don't like you guys anymore. And they're mad. They're so hurt over it. And they're still hurt. That's the thing. It's been a year. It's been a year, Mandy, since he left them. And they still will blow up your Twitter feed with Dwight's a bitch, or or like they're in high school, and it's amazing to me. And I love the Houston fan base. They're hilarious in every sport whatsoever. Any sport, we have every sport in Houston except for hockey. Every sport, they're hilarious. But then you were also talking about ridiculousness, and then seeing some of the predictions for the Texans for the coming year from the Houston fan base. And they're mad at me because I'm negative on Houston sports, or because, in their opinion, I'm negative. I feel like I'm being realistic. You have a brand new coach, like a whole brand new staff except for 2 coaches, right? Brand new quarterback, a lot of rookies. Okay, a lot of rookies. And you're going to tell me that we're playoff bound in 2014? So this is what I deal with. This is my life, Mandy. Talking me down from the ledge, because I'm right there on the verge.
No, I'm going to crawl out on the ledge, and I'm going to hand you a cocktail, and we're going to talk about this, and we're going to woosah. We're going to bring ourselves back to center. I can tell you this much. If you think that, the Houston fans have these unrealistic expectations, these ridiculous claims about what the team is going to do this year, you should hear the Redskins fans. Now, like you said before we went live, they're like your family. You
Right.
love them. They're crazy, but you love them anyway, and I do. I love my Redskins, my fellow Redskins fans. I love Redskins Nation, but the whole we're gonna J.J. Watt isn't gonna know what hit him, and we're gonna drive Jadeveon Clowney down into the turf, and okay, let's all just take a deep breath and a step back, and we're not going to the Super Bowl this year. We probably won't make it to the Super Bowl for the next couple of years. We, like you all, we have a brand new coach. We have not a whole slew of rookies, but a lot of new faces on our team, rookies and veterans. And we've got a lot of catching up to do because as I will try to make it as brief and as painless a statement as possible. You and I were both in the football doldrums last season. There I said it. There I said it. It's on the table.
It's out there on the table.
It's out there. So, we know that we want more from our teams this year, obviously, and there is nothing wrong with having, having enthusiasm for your team and to have high expectations for your team, but
Right.
you can't verbalize, oh, well, we're going to the Super Bowl, or we're gonna at least make it to the championship game. No, nobody knows that. You know why? Because we don't even know who's on the 53-man roster yet.
Right. They haven't even started training camp.
Thank you.
Both of our fan bases have declared us the victors of and I've said it on other podcasts I'm on, we're both in very weak divisions, at least according to recent history.
Right.
It doesn't mean that every other team in our division, all the fan bases, they don't have the same expectations we have as Redskins and Texans fans. Every Cowboys fan, every Giants fan, every Eagles fans feel it for sure. Texans, you're going against the Colts, the Titans, and the Jaguars, who are both younger, new coach-ish around in those two teams. Everyone feels like their team is primed to take the division in these weaker divisions. And I don't know. I'm not ready to say before training camp starts that my team is the team who is going to take the AFC South this season. I'm not ready to say.
That's right.
And that's not negative. That's realistic.
Exactly. And
tell me what's going to happen.
Right. I mean, if I had a Caribbean accent and my name was Cleo, then maybe I would be psychically predicting stuff. But I can tell you right now that we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
God forbid anybody gets hurt, and I'm going to knock on wood. God forbid anybody gets hurt during camp. God forbid that there is, oh my God, anybody who wants to emulate Josh Gordon. Josh, what are you thinking? I'm sure we'll talk about that a little more later on. But, we don't know what's going to happen. And, probably bigger, if there is even kind of a higher level of ridiculousness, if at all possible, when a player switches teams. A lot of people forget that this is a business. Now, I will stand up and I will admit right now that it breaks my heart to know that, Santana Moss's time is coming. He's not the youngin' that he used to be, and that, there may be some very tough decisions that may have to be made.
Number 3 receiver now? I mean, let's be realistic.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and Pierre.
Right. So, I mean, you have to understand that, sometimes people are cut. You don't want to see them cut.
Right.
Leonard Hankerson, who did a pretty good job for us, stepped in and did a pretty good job for us, could be cut. We don't know. But for one player to move to another team and then be called a traitor, and by the way, that's not Traitor, that's Trader, a traitor. And I always like to ask people who tweet this, what do they trade? Are they trading in futures? Are they trading stocks, bonds? And nobody ever seems to get it. But yeah, so then there's that level of fan who can't quite, not only can't quite understand that sports is a business, but also cannot cannot explain themselves very well in their mother tongue. So let me hear you on this, because I know you have an opinion about this.
Well, yeah. Well, and it's just not that hard. I mean, and I've seen some very smart people with some very poor grammar, and I've seen some people with very poor grammar who are not very smart people, according to their opinions, in my opinion, which I guess some people may think is not smart. I don't know. It's all very convoluted. But if you're going to say somebody is a traitor, at least get the traitor correct. It's not somebody who trades like amongst European colonies or something in the New World. It's somebody who goes against what you believe in and what they believed in and they stood for, and it was important, and they go against it, and that's a traitor.
There you
People
go.
don't care about English anymore. It's Twitter has introduced me to a whole new world of people who are incapable of spelling you or your.
There, and there, the twos, all of that. Oh my God, it's awful. It's
Yeah,
awful.
it is. So people, understand your English before you speak in public. Come on, get it together.
And really, if I don't know, if JJ is a free agent and he goes to another team, does that make him a traitor?
No.
No, it makes him a businessman because this is his job. I mean, a lot of people don't get it.
Okay.
The football field is their office.
Now,
This is their job.
it does matter how the player conducts himself to the former fan base.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If they act like that fan base didn't support them for the last 4 to 5 years or whatever the case may be, then that could possibly make them a traitor traitor. But if the player is just conducting business as players are wont to do, they follow the money, their agents tell them to follow the money, the team has its best interest at heart. Why shouldn't the player have his best interest at heart? What is it personal? They're not trying to hurt you as a person. Get over your butthurt feelings. It doesn't matter.
Right. And I mean, wouldn't you, I know I would, if somebody offered me a job that was, higher pay, but I had to move, I'd
Right.
have to think about that. I'd have to seriously give that some consideration.
Yeah.
And so it's nothing that you or I or any other fan wouldn't do. So enough with the traitor already. And really, if you're going to call them a traitor, at least, don't make it sound like they are trading stocks and bonds or futures or, I mean, we get
Have
it
a
right.
basic grasp of the English language, and we'll be okay then, and we can let it go. I mean,
I think social media is dumbing us all down.
well, yeah, your bad opinion is one thing, but your abuse of the human language, the English language is just a totally other animal altogether. It's not.
Agreed. Agreed. So let's talk about these players then. So the guys were asked during the season, I guess last year, or during the postseason last year, again to rank their peers. And I'm sorry, I've got to go to the glasses here. I got to put my eyeballs on so I can see. And and I have got, quite frankly, a problem with some of the rankings. And certainly. I don't play football. I don't play with these guys, and far be it for me to tell somebody that their opinion is wrong, because we're each entitled to our opinion.
Absolutely.
But I have a little bit of a problem, for example, with Kiko Alonso and Navarro Bowman being ranked 84 and 47 respectively. I think they both should have been higher up in the standings. I think that Colin Kaepernick at 81, I think that's unfortunate. I mean, dude
Yeah.
has dude has done a lot in his few years in the league, and and
Right.
I hear this argument all the time from people about how, well, he's got all these fantastic people around him. Isn't that the whole point of a football team, is to have the best talent to join together, right?
It Well, it is. And I mean, I don't think okay, there are very few of these players who are getting to their spot by themselves. Um, you can't say that a player isn't getting somewhere because, maybe he was double teamed, but there's someone else on the team who also, who got opportunities because of that one player being double teamed, and so he got a spot. It all depends on the team structure. It all depends on where you land. It all depends on what your team is doing around you. In a 2-14 team, you're not going to get a lot of guys in the top 100. They have to stand out and differentiate themselves from a crowd. On a team that goes to the Super Bowl, pretty much everybody's going to be on the top 100 if they're a starter for that team. So it's just the way it is.
And I'm so right there with you. But man, can I just tell you though, Pierre Garçon finished first in the number of receptions last year.
Mm-hmm.
He finished, I think it was something like eighth in was it yards or yards per game? And then he finished somewhere else in the top 10 as far as one of the other stats. So I'm kind of wondering why he was set at 80. And I get it. We stunk up the place last year. We were 3-13. I get it. But is it really righteous to be able to discount somebody just because they're on a really crappy team? If they were the standout, just like I haven't seen Alfred Morris, and it's really going to tick me off and I don't think he's going to be in the top 10. Alfred Morris is completely discounted. Frank Gore, I think, was seated a little bit too high at 46. He has finished in terms of all running backs in the past 3 years. I think he has finished overall ninth, eighth, and eighth, or eighth, ninth, and ninth. I can't remember, but he didn't do as well as other running backs, and yet he was up there at 46. Gronk,
Yeah.
who did not even play an entire year last
Right.
year,
That one was frustrating.
yeah, yeah. And then Larry Fitzgerald. I love Larry Fitzgerald. He's got the surest hands in the league, as far as I'm concerned. I am enamored of him. I am in awe of his talent. But I think he placed like 17th overall in wide receivers. So why would he be placed at 38? And he was not on a stellar team. So give me your thoughts on that. What say you to some of these?
Here's how I correlate it. This competition, okay, you have NFL players who are voting on this, right? It's NFL players who are voting on their peers. That's the whole premise. So you have a school of highly talented individuals, like the gifted and talented high school. And they're voting each other based on what do they call it? The superlatives, the most whatever in their class, the most photogenic, the class clown, the most whatever.
Right.
And they're naturally going to overlook the people who get less exposure. They're going to overlook the people who are not on teams that are having highlights on SportsCenter's top 10 every Sunday night after the game's finished. It's just a matter of media coverage, in my opinion. Now, there are certain players one cannot overlook. Now, I would guess, just from what we saw the previous season, RG3 might be one of those players. Last year, had he been healthy. J.J. Watt is one of those players. Maybe Arian Foster, if he's healthy. you can't overlook those individuals. They're going to be ranked high no matter what because they're just like most photogenic candidates.
Right.
But overall, the team as a whole, the unsung heroes, as I've seen in a couple of yearbooks here and there, those guys, if they're not on the most popular team, the team that exceeds expectations that season, they're not going to get the superlative vote. They're not going to get ranked as high as the rest of us think that they're worthy of being ranked because they're not on everybody's tongue every Sunday night on that SportsCenter Top 10. Because SportsCenter Top 10 is going to focus on the people who's going to get them the most rankings.
Right.
Ratings. And so if they're focusing on people who are going to get the most ratings, it's going to be the teams that are achieving the most.
Right. No, and I totally get that. I totally get that. And I think that, when I saw JJ at 12 and, oh my God, Aaron Rodgers at 11, are you kidding me? He's
Right.
not in the top 10.
Right.
These things just, and nobody can argue. There is nobody out there in football land who can tell me that J.J. Watt did not play with every ounce that he had in him last year. I mean, the defining picture for me of J.J. Watt last year for the Texans was the game, where he was playing with, was it a cut or did he actually break his nose?
I think he's broken it, and I think it's gotten cut, and there was like actual physical trauma outside of the breakage inside of the nose. Yeah.
I mean, it was just here is dude covered in blood, but he's not going to sit on no, get away from me. I don't need for you to put a bandage on it, just I'm going back out there to play, I mean, and that just, to me, when you have that kind of sportsmanship and dedication to your team, as opposed to my boy Dick Sherman, who wants to pick on everybody on Twitter that, oh my God, if you don't say that he's the best ever, he's going to start a Twitter war with you. And following after people after they lose, chirping at them, that's not sportsmanship. And so it really kind of ticks me off to see someone like Richard Sherman get the kind of attention that he gets time and time and time and time and time again, just because he happened to be on a good team last year. And let's talk. He's got talent, okay? I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you that he's not talented.
He's
but now, it ruins it. It ruins it. So that's, I don't think I need to tell you anything about Seattle, because I think you and I feel a little bit about the same way about that team. But all I'm saying is I'm waiting for Week 5, because I will be very happy to go to that game, and I will be very, very happy not to be able to speak for like a week afterwards for that game. So I'm looking forward to that one.
I know you will. I definitely know you will. I don't think that the duo of Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu have really gotten their due, and they play in the same division as Seattle, but they're not as over the top, maybe, as duo in Seattle. Well, of course, I guess half the duo. I mean, Byron Maxwell is going to be the starting cornerback next season, and Richard Sherman, of course. But you have those two. And then I think it's a lot. I mean, it's so, in this day and age, let's be honest about it, Mandy. It's so media driven. It's so, who is going to get us the most views on Twitter, which will translate into views on SportsCenter or NFL Network, and that will translate to advertisers and viewers, possibly. And
very true.
So you're losing, I think, some of the integrity of the sport by having people who are bigger than their team, maybe, representing their team on a national basis.
Well said, and I can't agree with you more. And I mean, you are so right. I mean, I would be I would be, as a fan, I would be pleased with um, my guy's talent, but his mouth would just make me want to cringe, and I wouldn't want that to be the face of my team. Just like if I don't know if Robert was to do something ridiculous like that, I wouldn't want
Right.
I wouldn't want that embarrassment for my team. So
Right.
I'm totally there with you. And like I said, very well said, because you make a really good point. And talking about just the way that sports are driven nowadays, and that it's all about the viewership and the loyalty of the fan base, and money, 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 sponsorships and things like that. Um,
Right.
it's I think that eventually what's going to end up happening is become um, they're going to rely so much on ticket sales, but they're going to price us all out of being able to go to a football game. Like right now, our season tickets
Yeah.
are I think $100 a piece. I don't know what they are for the Texans. Um,
That's a dream scenario, honestly, Mandy. I'm not. I guess it's because it's Texas. We're 4 hours away from Dallas, and there's a lot of Texas in between here and there and around, out away from there. If I can find a ticket in the crap seats, the very top of the building of
right.
Energy Stadium, if I can pay $150 a ticket, that's a good day.
Wow.
And for the worst game of the season. That can be Texans versus Jags. That can be, Texans versus, well, Titans is a big deal here because of history. But, yeah, it's
Whoa.
$150 is pretty good for 600 level seats at Energy Stadium. And, yeah,
God.
I mean, when I was making a good chunk of change every year, I could justify spending that kind of money on tickets. But I'm as hardcore of a fan as I know, and this season I'm seriously I'm seriously hoping they don't call me and say my time is available on the wait list for season tickets. I'm honestly am, because I can't afford that. There's no way. I can't afford what they want in PSL and season tickets to attend 8 games for the Texans this season.
Well,
And 2 and 14.
our mutual acquaintance Jennifer, who is San Francisco writer for NFL Female. She was talking about how she had to give up her seats because the new Levi Stadium, the PSL, I think they wanted something like, what did she say, or was it? I'm trying to remember exactly who it was who had to give up their seats. I think it was Jennifer, and she was talking about like the PSL was like 10 grand or something like that, and they wanted you to come up with that ahead of time.
Yeah, that's absolutely the way it is. And oh my gosh, I wish I could remember. A very, 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 very good friend of mine had recently to pay for tickets, PSL licensing, all of that, and he let me know what it was. But if I'm looking up on the Texans marketplace right now, PSLs for sale. Sorry, I'm trying to get this for you just real quick as a point of reference. Taking forever to load, of course. Up to $25,000 for PSLs.
Jesus,
Um,
man. I mean,
and the lowest price per PSL is $3,000, and that's up in the 600s.
man, that's
You
crazy.
want that?
And you can't mean to tell me that with like the breaks that the stadium tax breaks that the stadium gets from the city or the county that they're in, like you can't tell me that Dan Snyder isn't getting some sort of perk for having his from having FedEx Field there in Landover. I mean, it's crazy that they're passing this along to us, and I don't think that they
Well,
quite realize that they're not going to have people who are going to be able to afford to come to a game if they keep this
right.
up.
And the fact of the matter is obviously it's mutually beneficial for the city or the municipality and the owner to make money off of each other through these loopholes or whatever the case is. Now, there will always be some guys, a bunch of people who will buy the tickets that are available on StubHub. But if you're in Houston, for instance, I've been on the season ticket wait list for 2.5 years.
Mhm.
I'm at like 7,000 to go. I'm still not even at the top of the list. They don't have a problem selling these tickets. They haven't had the problem selling the tickets, and I don't know the socioeconomic makeup of other markets as much as I do Houston. I know there's a lot of expendable income in Houston. There's no state income tax. Earnings are very high in proportion to living expenses, yada, 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 for the top third, maybe, of people who live here. The rest of the people who go who aren't in that top third, they buy them on StubHub. They make it happen. They buy from the people who can't go that one particular week. But, yeah, they're pricing out in a lot of markets the average fan.
And then what are they going to do? I mean, are we going to end up like like Jacksonville and rope off seats and things like that? I mean, no owner wants that. No local television market wants that because they lose the revenues from the advertising during games and things like that. It's it's crazy. And actually, it's sad because it's one of the few things that my family does as a family. And it was my mom and my dad and me. And then when my son came along and was old enough to go to games, my mom wasn't so hep on going anymore, so she gave her ticket to my son. And this is the time of year that I look forward to. This is the time of year that I spend with my men, my dad and my son, and we go and we make a day of it, and it's fantastic, and it's what we love. It's what my dad loves, and he shares it with me and my son, and it's something that is, fantastic. And to think about how, one day we're not going to be able to afford it. It's sad to me because I've been going to games since I was a lowercase m, and we'll just say it like that. And I've been going to games now for like 40. I think this will be my 45th year going to football games.
Wow.
A long time.
I mean, my family came to Houston when I was like 3. So it took them a while to get on board with the Oilers, and when they did, we'd go to like a game a year, and it wasn't season tickets or anything. I was like the first full-fledged Texans fan where I want season tickets. I want to go to every home game. I want to be a part of all that. But yeah, it's hard. It's not cheap to be a fan. At the same time, just to be devil's advocate, if you're a hardcore fisherman, buying a boat costs a lot of money. Buying bait, buying fishing, all your fishing gear costs a lot of money. If you're going to be the hardcorest of the hardcore, and you want to be a part of all that, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So it sucks, but maybe I personally fall into the have-nots. And I didn't know I did until recently, but that's okay. I'm a have-not, and I can aspire to score some really cheap seats on StubHub for those crappy games a couple of times a year, and I will be happy to get to go. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what, if there is any kind of a contest or any kind of possibility here in D.C. or there in Houston to win Texans to opening day, you better be on it because I'm going to be on it, and we'll try and win tickets so that we can experience opening day together, because that is something I would love to do. I would absolutely love to go to a game there.
That would be too awesome. That would make me so happy. Yeah, definitely. We should definitely make that happen.
So, and speaking of things that are making people happy, man, I don't know. Okay, I'm just going to preface this by saying, and I will try and do it without the T.O. chin quiver, because that's my quarterback. But a statue is being built at Baylor. Now, as a Texan, you probably heard this news that RG3 there's going to be a statue of him built and put out there at Baylor. And while I can understand that he was probably their most successful, in their minds, successful player who made it to the NFL and did a very good job while he was there at Baylor. Hello, what about Mike Singletary? But, I'm just, can you let the kid achieve something? He's only, 23, 24 years old. Can you let him get into his career for another couple of years before you start building statues? I felt the same way as when they built a statue for crying Timmy Tebow down at University of Florida. And I feel kind of weird about this. Give me your take on this whole thing.
The NFL is not for long, which to me equates to what have you done for me lately, which the systems that feed into the NFL are also going to be what have you done for me lately. They want the newest, the most popular, the most fashionable, the most trendy things to draw people into their stadiums. For instance, and we can go on this topic or we can not go on this topic. I don't care either way. Someone on the A&M Board of Regents proposed that they rename Kyle Field at College Station, A&M, to be the house that Johnny built. I'm anti that. But they think that it will sell tickets to prospective students, local people, in addition to alumni, and yada, yada, yada. Schools are in it for $1 too. Everybody wants their money. And we live in America, and it is what it is. People are going to try and make $1 off of every opportunity they see. And right. Some of us will have ethics and say, that's probably not the wisest move. And some of us will say, you know what, now's the time. We've got to capitalize, take advantage of this opportunity. Let's make our money and roll out of here. And in 10 years, if Johnny Manziel is busted with a crap ton of cocaine or whatever the case is, and he's out of the NFL, it's not going to matter. Because for 3 years, we sold record numbers of tickets at Kyle Field, formerly known as Kyle Field, now the house that Johnny built, and we'll just rename it to something else.
Right.
It's very opportunistic, but it's our society. It's our, reality TV sort of society.
Well, I can't remember whether it was, I can't remember who it was, but I was telling someone about how, I was in Tyler, Texas, shortly after the draft. And I think it was you that I mentioned, right across the street from my hotel in Tyler, Texas, there was this big old billboard that was we love you, Johnny, let's go Browns. So now everybody in Tyler, Texas, which, by the way, is a UT town, which I was very shocked about, is now all of a sudden on the Johnny football bandwagon.
Okay. Who did you ask that of, real quick? Just not that important, but I'm just curious.
I'm sorry?
What school does Tyler represent? Who did you ask that question of?
Well, I thought that University of Texas had a branch there in Tyler.
Yeah, it used to be East Texas. Now it's, I think, East Texas A&M. So the state is so divided. You have to understand, I would guesstimate on average, probably, even when Texas was big, it was probably 60 Texas, 40 A&M. Now that A&M is growing in size, I would say 55-45, a little bit in favor of A&M. It's going to depend on when you ask and who you ask, but every town has its deep-seated Aggies and every town has its deep-seated Longhorns, because that's the proper way to say it. Longhorns. I won't say it's derogatory.
Hey, and can I just, as an aside, can I just tell you, I've seen a cow before, all right? I've seen a cow, I've seen a steer before, but, in that drive from Dallas to Tyler, can I just tell you that I was such a freaking nerd. I looked, and I looked again, and I saw this like this herd, and I pulled over, and I got out of the car, and I was kind of looking, and I was like, oh my God, where is there? I need somebody to. Hey, look, it's Longhorns. I see like the real live Longhorns. I mean, I was.
You know, the real live Longhorns, yeah, they're out there.
I had never seen them before. It was a novelty to me. You know, I'm a city girl, so it was, So.
It's impressive for a second, and then they talk. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Kidding. I don't know where these things come from. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, we were talking about Tyler, Texas.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the whole state is divided. And if you go into any town, there'll still be like a segment of the population who's very Baylor or very TCU or very whatever. I think it's not unlike anywhere else, really. It's just Texas and A&M, they are prevalent within the state.
And just like here, we have like, diehard Hokies fans and diehard Cavs fans. So you've got your Virginia Tech contingent, and you've got your UVA contingent, and then you've got me, who's a little old Tar Heels fan stuck in the middle of Virginia. The whole demographic up. So but I mean, it's just and I have to throw this out here because, I have to say it. I think you and I talked a little bit on Twitter like months ago about I'm not the biggest fan of Senior Manziel. However, I do just want to say in his defense that for God's sakes, can people stop worrying about what he's doing in his off time? Can people please stop stalking him in bathrooms and clubs and,
Can I put this out there real quick?
Yes.
Okay. Emmitt Smith recently said that Manziel would burn out quickly.
Okay.
Did Emmitt Smith look at the roster of the Cowboys when he was playing? Did those people have microphones? Because the people on his team were caught doing some pretty gnarly crap.
Yeah, that's why we called them the Dallas Convicts for a long time, honey, because they were the biggest drug, the dudes who were the most involved in drugs. And Dexter Manley from the Redskins got caught one time and was drummed out of the league. One time, Claire, when these jerks in Dallas had chance after chance after chance.
Oh, yeah, live in Texas. I'm on your side here.
But it's like you say, because it's all about the money and the exposure, and that, team, for whatever reason, is the beloved team. And I don't know why, because I find them...
It wasn't the Cowboys. If it's some random, if it's Joe Montana saying this, or Warren Moon, they have both said things. They did not have camera phones in their days. I want to know the percentage of their teammates who were doing similar things in similar places with similar bankrolls and money flowing in who just didn't get caught because they didn't have camera phones.
Exactly.
Now, Johnny Manziel, it's correct. He does need to ditch some of his crew. He does need to have someone on his staff or in his entourage who says, get rid of these people, or if you have a phone out, we're taking it and we're throwing it in the toilet, whatever. But there is not the exposure back then as there is today. And I'm not saying he's perfect. As far as I know, it looks like he was doing cocaine. It looks like he's a cokehead. I don't know any better. That's just the logical conclusion to jump to.
But, again,
others have done
since you and I weren't there, we can't say what was going on. We don't know if, we don't know. We don't know, and I'm not going to rush to judgment about anybody, because if I'm not there to see it with my own peepers, then guess what? I'm not going to say that...
I have done questionable things that if people from the outside saw it, they would go, ooh, I bet she was being, unscrupulous or whatever, but they don't know what I was up to. They don't know what's in my heart. They don't know what's in my head. And another thing on this, I just have I have like this little 5% of my brain says it's possible. It's just possible. It's possible. Maybe Johnny Manziel is just trolling everybody. Maybe he's saying, look, they're expecting me to do all this bad stuff. I'm going to do really bad stuff, and I'm going to put it out there, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to show up and play whatever for the Browns. I'm just saying it's possible.
You know, and this goes directly to, again, God, we've talked ourselves right into a circle about expectation and about, you know, listen, it's obvious that if you make it to the National Football League, you have a certain level of talent. You have practiced your way into, or you have some level of God-given talent, innate talent. For my atheist friends out there, I don't want to, you know, leave anybody out. You have some level of innate talent, and being in the NFL is not about maintaining that level of talent. It's kicking it up to the next level, and it is improving yourself and becoming a consummate professional, or at least becoming a professional who is, you know, I say this all the time. If you can sit down at the end of your day or at the end of your career and you can put your feet up on the table that you paid for through your hard work, and you, in your mind, can say, yes, I gave everything that I had, and I did the best job that I could. I never slacked off. I didn't cut corners. Then, you know what? More power to you. And that's what it's all about. And so back off of Johnny. Let the kid alone. If he's going to make mistakes, God, I hope they're not horrible ones. I hope he doesn't follow in the footsteps of Josh Wilson.
I hope nobody's affected but him, honestly. Right.
You know, so, and speaking of his teammate, you know, Josh Wilson, excuse me, yeah, Josh Wilson. Yeah, let me start talking about another Redskin. But, you know, DUIs, drug use, domestic violence, all of these things that these kids are getting into, you know, is it the pressure? Is it because a lot of them come from really nothing and now all of a sudden they have everything at their fingertips? What's your take on that?
You know, I don't know if we can even say. I mean, I think every person is so individual. I hate to back them into a corner and say, this is what the problem is with this guy. There's one out of 100 people is a psychopath, you know? That's 2 teams. That's 2 starting rosters of players. Exactly. 1 out of 100 is a psychopath. 1 out of 100 is an Aaron Hernandez. You know, I can't say that Josh Gordon isn't that guy. I can't say that Josh Gordon isn't a J.J. Watt with a jug problem.
Right.
I can't say that either. I don't know what exactly is happening with him. I do know he needs help. I think that Chris Carter had a good point. He's been cut. Chris he's obviously had his own issues with drug abuse and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Maybe it's time for the Browns to cut Josh Gordon and just put him into a situation where he has to fight for it, where he is not just given his God-given talent. He has to fight for his chance and prove that he's worthy of the opportunity. I'm not necessarily against that opinion, even though it's Chris Carter. It is what it is.
Yeah, I'm right there with you about Chris Carter. And you know what? And I feel bad for Josh Gordon because, you know, this is the kid who was riding high last year. He finished first in 2 categories of stats for all wide receivers in the league. Kid was doing such a great job, and I feel so horrible for someone who has this issue, and I kind of wrestle with it because, you know, I feel like, you know, God, what can someone do to help you? I hope somebody says, let's help this kid, let's get him past this. And then the other half of me wants to say, like, no, forget it. No, you are fortunate to be where you are in a league to do what you get paid to do, what you love. And damn it, suck it up, tighten up, and fly right. But what's
Right.
what's the answer?
And it's going to take, I think, knowledge of each individual player. It's not going to just be a blanket statement. This is going to be right for every single guy in the league in this situation. Because you made a good point at the beginning of this. You're taking people, not all of whom had a lot to begin with. Maybe they had nothing to begin with. Maybe they're given a whole lot of money and they didn't have the maturity to know how to deal with it. Maybe that, what is it they call it, the rookie symposium didn't have as big an impact on him. Maybe he didn't pay attention. Maybe he screwed off and everyone said, it's okay, it's Josh Gordon, he's going to be great one day because he has all this talent, and yada, yada, yada. We don't know the circumstances that they were in when they got to that position. It's going to take knowledge of each guy's background, of their mental state, what they're capable of in this league, for the NFL to support each guy on an individual basis, I think.
Well, you would think that some of that is addressed at the combine, because I know that some of the testing that they do is psychological in nature. And, for somebody who doesn't do well on standardized testing, but that's a whole other conversation, it can sometimes, even though the test may not be what everybody would call, ethnically sound, like ethnically equitable across the board, for everybody to sort of be able to put themselves in certain situations that tests are asking, at least you would think that some of that issue that they have, whether it be mental or whether it just be like a behavioral issue, would be able to be brought across through some of that testing. So, it's very interesting to me that if the league wants to, because I'm trying to remember what the average NFL career is. I want to say it's like 5.7 years or something like that.
Oh, it's less than 4.
I beg your pardon?
Less than 4.
Less than 4.
It's
okay.
3 to 4, yeah.
So, I mean, if the league wants, the ownership, so to speak, in a very inelegant way of saying it, of these guys for 4 years or 10 years or, however, some guys have played 20 years, then it is incumbent, as far as I'm concerned, it is incumbent upon the NFL as their employer to make sure that there are some measures in place to help these guys. I mean, I know that at your everyday private sector workplaces, they have things like employee outreach programs and employee assistance programs where, if you're having an issue, if you're having a mental issue, if you're having a health issue, if you're having a financial issue, there is a hotline or, some sort of thing that is separate from your employer where these people can give you help. And nobody is going to, you're not going to be in fear of losing your job. And why isn't there something similar for these guys in the NFL?
Well, I would say it's a little bit different because there are 16 games in the average season. There are millions of people who are watching and depending on seeing their favorite player play on every Sunday. It's an entertainment. It's a sport. It's not the same as going to work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And people want to compare it. Oh, if I did that in my job, I'd be fired. Well, as much as I hate to admit it, and I've made that comparison myself, it's not the same. And so you have to depend on these people to provide the entertainment to your customers in a 16-game schedule. And I think that you can hope you get all that information on the front end, but once you put millions of dollars in these individuals' hands, do you know what's going to happen to them in the next 2, 3, 4 years? You really don't. it's kind of a crapshoot. You're kind of guessing what you're going to get with each guy.
You know, you bring up excellent points. You know, and you're right. You really kind of can't, and I'm guilty of it too, of comparing and saying, "Oh my God, if I had gotten a DUI, or if I was, you know, if somebody had taken a picture of me with a rolled up dollar bill, you know, my job, I would be fired. I'd be arrested by the police. You know, what were you doing with, you know?" And so you really kind of can't compare. And this is why it really kind of puts the onus on the league and on the players association to try and find some middle ground, at least in my opinion. Even though it is not a traditional workplace, you know, they are expected, the players are expected to adhere to the rules and the regulations. Hell, Kirk Cousins can tell you that he was at his grandma's house, last year, the year before, in March for Easter or whatever, and NFL came, "Hey, Kirk, why don't you pee in this cup for us?" I mean, at his grandma's house, for Christ's sake. So,
Right.
you know, they can bust in on your life at any point in time during the year. So, I mean, I think that there are a lot of things that are, you know, about this untraditional, non-traditional workplace that, you know, that bring issues across that I don't think the league and the Players Association are really dealing with. They're just now dealing with the concussion issue. So, you
Right.
know, good points all, but you know, all I've got to say is I cannot believe that this hour has just about flown by. And I want to make sure that I give you the opportunity to let us know where we can find you. You know, if you've got other casts and things like that that you appear on, please let our viewership know so that we can see and hear more of Claire. So take it away and plug yourself a little bit.
Thank you, Mandy. Yeah, I am on Twitter. You see my Twitter handle right there. And I pretty much plug everything I do right there on Twitter. I do the weekly Wednesday Night with NFL Females still. You can find me there. But really, talk to me on Twitter. I love talking about football. And I have an opinion on your team whether or not I follow your team. So throw me a situation. I have opinions on it, I promise.
Well, I am grateful that you have come to join me this week, and I hope that you will come back next week or the next time that we decide to have a show. I don't know, with camps not starting yet. We're going to toss
Yeah.
around folks, you know, what we're going to do. Maybe we're going to do one, you know, once a month, or you know, maybe we'll do another. We won't do another one until camps start. In, I guess it's like what, I think it's 2 weeks now if that camp starts. I know
Yeah.
July 24th, I think, is when they start. So, but I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed the kickoff show for the 2014 season. Folks, I can't thank you guys enough for all of the support and the love that you guys have shown me in the off season, asking me when I'm coming back, you know, encouraging me to come back for another season. There were a lot of changes that happened last year, and y'all came along for the ride with me. And I want to tell you I'm grateful for your support, your continued support. And, you know, you can see I've got the Twitter handle for both the show and my personal Twitter handle. I'm open to any kind of conversation and topic. I love to talk about football as well. And until the next time that I see you on Cover 3, I want to thank y'all for joining us, thank Claire one more time, and tell you that we will see you to talk about all things football the next time. Take care, you guys. See ya.
Thanks, Mandy.